Good day to you all. I hope this finds you well. We've got a segment from this week's On The Ball podcast on the way for you in a tick. So I hope you enjoy that as myself, Norwich City number one chief, NCFC numbers Steve Sanders, and the delightful Fionn Thomas talk through Emi Buendia and Todd Cantwell and all of the rumblings on from that. So that section is on the way in the moment. First of all, let me just flag up, you should head over to The Athletic. We've still got a subscription offer running at the moment. You can read my reaction from Sunday's defeat at Bournemouth and, of course, all the fallout with Daniel Farke in terms of the Bournemouth 2. And also I've got an interview coming up for you this week with a former Norwich City star who you would probably expect I would speak to off the back of the fixture at the weekend. But what I will say is it was nice to sit down with him properly and have a proper chat. So that'll be coming up with you shortly. In the meantime, thank you as always for subscribing, following, for being here. I'll be live on Facebook on Wednesday afternoon. I'll be live on YouTube on Friday afternoon for 20 minutes to answer all of your questions and take your comments. So keep an eye out for those. And of course, I will be at Carrow Road on Saturday for Norwich versus Derby. In the meantime, enjoy this section from the On The Ball podcast this week. And remember, you can listen to the podcast in full on your chosen podcast player. The link will be in the notes or whichever down below. Leave your comments, leave a like, leave a rating, whichever you wish. Let us know how much you love it. And I'll see you later in the week. I didn't want to get stuck into transfer talk every week. We even had that chat with my editor before the weekend thinking, well, I don't really want to do a piece on Ben Godfrey because, you know, we did a bit after the Huddersfield game on how the old crown jewels are getting on. It is literally unavoidable because stuff keeps happening. And you know, it was quite a live, trying to drive down to Bournemouth on your own when all stuff is kicking off around you is not an easy task, I can tell you. Emi Buendia and Todd Cantwell were left out of the squad on Sunday, just in case anyone missed that. You can read my piece on that, including how Daniel Farke answered my questions on the pair in his post-match press conference, along with my letter penned to Barcelona regarding Max Aarons last week. I'm yet to receive a reply, by the way. That's all on The Athletic, and you can start a subscription for a best ever deal of £1 per month for a limited time right now. Just head to theathletic.com/UK subscribe. Steve, I'll come to you first. How are we feeling about the Bournemouth 2, as I've dubbed them?
Well, I've had a bit of time to digest it since yesterday. I mean, first of all, what an interview. Having read Michael's piece, by the way, because what Farke says is quite incredible, I think. It's difficult because we're doing a lot of reading between the lines. I think you feel like they've had their heads turned, the two of them, because quite honestly, they're too good to leave out of the squad. You know, I appreciate that Farke is a principled manager. We've seen him do it before with Nelson Oliveira. If a player is not 100% behind the team, he will leave them out, and I completely respect that. But yeah, there is a but coming. But I mean, and we will get onto the nuts and bolts of the performance yesterday, I'm sure. The issue for him was that we were absolutely lacking what Todd and Emi would have brought us, undoubtedly. And I think that maybe played into some of his comments a little bit. And I did feel like there was a little bit of rabble-rousing, kind of singing to the choir. I mean, there's one bit in particular which I made a note of where he said, these players owe a lot to their clubs, and this club makes sure that they can lead such a privileged life. Our supporters are crucial to that, buying their tickets, shirts, paying for the broadcasts following them. And that to me seemed like I'm going to get the fans on side here. And it almost felt like he was playing Todd and Emi off against them a little bit. I don't know what Fionn thinks, but I worry now. I worry with the relationship between the manager and those two.
Fionn.
Yeah, it was all a bit dramatic as well. I don't think it helped that it all kicked off on the morning of the game, which was the same that happened with the whole Max Barcelona thing. I don't know if that's deliberate or coincidental, but it doesn't really help. And then it means everyone's waiting for this big post-match interview. Yeah, I mean, I think you can just tell how frustrated Farke is, because I think if one or both of them had been playing, we win that game yesterday, because we were lacking, you know, those sort of balls to be played through that they can do through to Pukki. I mean, he worked hard and he was making the runs all game, as far as I could tell from the I follow camera angles, which are not always helpful for telling that. But it just wasn't it wasn't clicking in that sort of space in between, which is where we need them. And so I think Farke is just so frustrated that this is going on, when if they they could be playing, they're still our players, they're still contracted to us like Max is, and they could be playing, and we could have got 3 points yesterday. So yeah, I think it's all just come out with that, and you could tell, when he starts doing mild swear words in his post-match interview, I think he said bloody transfer window, you can tell that he doesn't usually do that. So I think that was quite telling as well.
Really, I mean, it's not very often that Daniel Farke has started with a side that didn't include someone you would consider a number 10. When you think in his first season, he had Alex Pritchard, James Maddison, Wesley Houlihan, and I know I'm forgetting someone as well. Even Stephen Naismith, because I think he brought that up as well when I chatted with him a few weeks ago. So just from that point on, he's always had a plethora of really creative playmakers. And they've kind of been a focal point of the way he plays. So there is probably a greater debate in terms of playing with a couple of wingers and trying to cross the ball when you've still only got Teemu Pukki as your striker, at least as your starting lineup. I mean, it's interesting. I got the impression that with Max Aarons in Barcelona, that emerged because there was a bit of pressure coming out, and let's see how Max reacts to this. I actually think Todd had already been dropped on Saturday, and I would imagine the agent was like, right, I need to make sure we take control of this narrative. Let's link him to Leeds, and obviously that came up as it did. It's worth reiterating there have been no bids for the players or anyone else. I think there was a bit of speculation about Everton and Fulham, but I don't in terms of Ben Godfrey, but I don't think that's anywhere particularly forward at the moment. And it does play into this issue as to what kind of happens now. In a normal situation, and Daniel Farke has done this before, you wait, Steve, don't you, for the reaction in training this week. The players go, oh gosh, you know what, I've got to step up here. So they kick on, they do really well in training. Daniel arrives, he puts them in his 18, probably in his 11, off they go, they play really well. Daniel says, I was being delighted with their reaction in training, and everyone's really happy. And then there's probably the other possibility, whereas it doesn't quite well like that, and they're like, well, screw you, gaffer, I need to get out. Although I've never really come across two players trying to force a move when they've got nowhere to go.
Oh, no, and I think that there doesn't have to be a villain in this piece. This kind of thing happens, right? We are now a championship club. There are going to be bigger clubs coming in for our players, and they might get their heads turned. It happens in football, and as I say, I think Farke's stance is absolutely right. He's perfectly entitled to say, if you're not 100% behind us this week, then I will pick someone else. Fine. Obviously, the team has suffered for that, but I don't think, I've seen quite a bit of animosity, particularly towards Todd Cantwell, which I don't really understand, because ultimately, if he wants to play at a higher level, that's up to him. And unfortunately, it may have cost us yesterday. Had he been playing, we may have got something out of it. As Fionn says, we may even have won the game. But I do feel that players like Todd Cantwell and Emi Buendia, it's a short career. You've got to do what's best for you. I'd love them to be loyal. I'd love them to stay, but I don't think we should expect that of them. And if they are hearing that there's interest in them, then it's only natural maybe that they would want to avoid getting injured. If they have their heart set on a Premier League move, I honestly would wish them all the best.
It's the one thing I'm going to say, we're actually only really dealing in one side of the story here. And if we suddenly whipped up Emi Buendia and Todd Cantwell on this podcast, which is fairly unlikely, but we've still got time tonight. It would be interesting to hear what they would see and how they would kind of view the whole situation. So there's that to play out. I was speaking to someone about this earlier today. Actually, there is a difference, really, I guess, in between. You have Emi Buendia, where you have his song that has a line in it, please don't take my Emi away. And it's almost like we've got to keep hold of this player because we've done so well to find him. Yet Todd Cantwell sort of was here anyway. and we brought him up, and he's quite assured of himself. So actually, he's just one of our own. So might as well treat him as if we own a little bit of him. And if something goes wrong, we can slag him off a little bit. Which I guess when it plays out in social media, Fionn, it's never ideal either, is it? But what would you sort of take a punt on this resolving this week, or even over the international break? Because let's remember, both transfer windows domestically and internationally end before Norwich then head to Rotherham at the end of the international break.
Yeah, I mean, it sort of feels like maybe it's kind of, certainly with the Todd thing, is maybe it's being pushed very much in that direction. And yeah, I mean, you can't blame him for wanting to go. He's proved himself to be good enough to play in the Premier League. But then, the counter argument is that he was in a Norwich City team that got him in the Premier League. But I don't think he necessarily owes us anything. But but in terms of for his contract now, he's a Norwich player, and if he is sort of not on it in training, then okay, that's what he does owe us until the point where he's no longer a Norwich City player. Yeah, I mean, he's as well. It's Leeds. I mean, maybe people are sort of struggling a bit because people view us on the same level. But I mean, they've had a really good start to the Premier League season. You can see the attraction of working with Bielsa. So it's an attractive move for him. I mean, he may consider that he should be working hard in training because Bielsa might have someone in the hedge with binoculars.
Right. And the other problem, the problem for Todd and Emi, I suppose, is Max Aarons, because Farke can literally and did in the interview you had with you, Michael, point to Max Aarons and go, well, Barcelona were after this guy a week ago, and he's basically played like that never happened, which I suppose from a supporter's point of view, from a manager's point of view, and from the club's point of view, is absolutely exemplary. So by comparison, they're not shone in such a good light, I suppose.
It suddenly started to dawn on me that, say, someone chucks in a load of money at Ben Godfrey, so you have to sell him. No one comes in for Max or Todd. And Emi and Todd. And what I would say about Max, he did play really well. He's definitely taking responsibility, but he was frustrated with his teammates on Sunday. He was looking at Onel Hernandez and being like, what are you doing? And Lucas were occasionally giving the ball away. And, I think there's a bit of him that is like, look, this is going to get frustrating if we're not at a level where we're challenging this season. So it's a really difficult situation. He's a young lad and there's a lot going on. But just the point of which you've sold Ben, Max is frustrated, and Emi and Todd are sulking. Not really conducive to a promotion push between now and January. So we will see. I'm going to call it there because I think we're probably going to come back to this situation probably next week. So we will see where we are then. Hey, what's the worst that could happen?